Mancy. That makes sense. So, in the Oriental cultures, the feng shui is the term used. It's the wind and water. It's the flow of energies across the landscape. And so all of these ologies boil down to health. And it's the health of your physical body, the health of your mental and emotional bodies, and the health of your business or your living space. And first and foremost, I think, is the stress factor. Stress can be defined in a number of ways. It can be sound stress. Let's say you have a high-pitched sound somewhere in the house. It's almost subliminal, almost below the level of perception. But that high-pitched sound puts a lot of stress on it. Locate it, silence it, and all of a sudden, gee, I feel better. It can be a low level, very, very low level kind of stress, very low sound, down in the 7 to 10 or 20 hertz range. And in these lower ranges of sound, they're inaudible. But those can still introduce a very, very high stress level. Other factors like too much light or the wrong kind of light, the improper spectrum of light, all these are stress levels. And they affect our health, our behavior, our energy levels, and our ability to sleep. And whether it's an adult or a child, you'll find that stress is not really good for you. And at this very subtle level of geopathic stress, heart and grid stress, or what we call the personal zone stress, it's almost undetectable. Its effects are felt very slowly. They accumulate over years and years and years. A person sleeping in a geopathic stress zone usually takes about 11 years to develop cancer after they start sleeping in that bed. But it's long term. Now, some areas, the cancer will occur in 3 to 5 years, very, very high stress areas. And the sleep problems are at the root of that, or they are the identifying characteristic. Take geopathic stress out of the house, and kids will quit fighting. We've seen it happen dozens of times. Their steady habits will improve, their overall behavior improves, and we've seen, in one case that we tracked about 6 months, kids' grades came up from D's to A's just simply by moving the geopathic stress out. Yeah. Katie Bachler is a researcher out of Austria, and she convinced the local school board to let her try an experiment. She identified geopathic stress as being the cause of the attention deficit disorder. Yeah. No riddle. Thank you. So what she did was go to the kids' homes and move their beds out of this geopathic zone. She got 100% success rate. 100%. Attention deficit disorder was relieved in 100% of cases. She took 3 hours in our work where we're covering the aspects of geopathic stress or using these subtle energy tools we've invented. The first thing you do is neutralize the grid. Every time. Go in, balance that house out, neutralize the grid, then do your energy balance, then do your feng shui, then do your chiropractic or your nutritional or herbal, and it will work much, much, much better. Your effectiveness in being successful at whatever you're doing, the way of eating, will come up, I would say, close to 100 times. The results will be 100 times faster, more efficient, and take less time. Any questions out there on that?
I have a question about the
Boxes are really the worst. I've personal experience with that. Came that close to killing. And, over a 3-year period, I absorbed this energy from a bad transformer. And eventually the thing was struck by lightning. And it just blew it all over the lot. But at the time, I wasn't as cognizant of what I know now. But around that pole, around that transformer pole, the anthills were so thick that when you walked on the ground, you'd sink in your ankles. The ground is that soft, there's so many ants. So the ants are a very identifying characteristic. If you have a lot of ants, you have a fairly high geopathic stress level in the area. The big ant hills we find out here in the west, out in the prairie country, the Texas red harvester ants, always on geopathic stress intersections, always. Termite hills in Australia and Africa are on the intersection of geopathic stress lines. 100%, every time.
The hill where I live we call it the ant hill because when it gets really hot, the whole hill comes alive with ants.
it's bad.
And I have discovered, probably been sleeping on these lines myself. Can you detect? I have a compass, and where I think the lines are, the compass goes off. Would that be any? That goes off on the swings.
I've noticed some variations in compasses working with this. Usually what I use a compass for is just to orient myself. Because when we're dealing with the Hartman grid, the only part we have to be concerned with is on the south and the west side of the house. Because that particular flow only comes from the south and west. So we can ignore the Hartman grid except on those two sides.
Because when you point it towards the north, when you get to the specific part, which is probably it's the east and west lines, the needle just flaps like that.
Yeah, she called me over there and she said, come over here. And I was like, okay, here we go. It's one of Robin's things. So I took the compass and I went from her 2 rooms and I walked. And then we went outside and it's the same thing. And it's only a different it's like maybe 6 feet. And it's from point to point. Then we went to another window and did the same thing. She slept underneath these windows.
Right, I slept under the first window and then I moved over to the second
so
place
I told
and picked
her,
the same.
And it pinpointed exactly where she rested her head. And I said, Robin, move your bed. And she moved it.
Yeah, and I felt a lot better ever since. But that was based on the magnetics of the magnetic north shifting. And it was only because I was trying to line my little pyramid up and I put it on this place and I thought there was something wrong with the compass because it wouldn't work. So I started moving along and discovered it. But that place is alive with ants and that's really interesting.
So you gave us a great illustration of how to neutralize, but you haven't shown us how to balance.
Oh, okay. Neutralizing the grid balances out the energy in So, a little bit of history here. The energy balancing that I'm speaking of is our topic for the month. That's what we call this pain relief, working with the tools. And so before you do that, neutralize the grid. That takes the stress off the environment, takes the stress off the person in the environment. First thing you want to do is your own personal home. You have tenants in a rental home that you own. You may notice that if you own a number of rentals, that sometimes one place stays rented longer than another. Okay, the short-term rental, where the tenants move in a couple of months are gone, move in a couple of months are gone. That's a high-stress place. They get so confused, so stressed that they can't function at their job. Okay, they took the place because it was fairly reasonable, and you're renting it for less money because you need to attract tenants to keep somebody in there, keep payments going. Well, if you have a high-stress location, your tenants are going to suffer from it, and you're going to risk losing a month's rent and have a little difficulty renting it at all. A lot of people come to a place that, I don't like it. They're sensitive to the energy. And we've even had a number of homes that were put on the market. 150 people come and look at it. Walk in the front door, look around, they're gone. After we neutralized the grid, it stayed for a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and looked it over very carefully. The house sold for the first person that visited after we neutralized the grid.
I've noticed like certain businesses in a certain building, they'll come and they'll go, and they'll only be there 3 or 4 months, and then they're out of business again. Someone else tries to do it, and I figure it's like something's wrong with that building, just.
Sick building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that location doesn't attract people necessarily, but the only thing that would be attractive would be the location or the price. So if an owner has difficulty keeping tenants in the building, he needs to call somebody who knows geopathic stress, and then a feng shui artist or a combination of the two, and balance the place out, saving megabucks. We're going to be offering this service to corporate America. We've already done one large corporation in the Denver area, and I think they were scattered out in 5 buildings on this corporate campus, and then it consolidated everything into a new world headquarters. And we had the opportunity to go in there and block all the zones prior to the building being finished and occupied. But we had some very interesting results just doing the scattered buildings. A lot of stuff came up and blew off, so to speak, a lot of emotional turmoil for about a week or 2. Then it settled out, and do a little counseling, and found that some of the people were attracted to a transformer of all things. That people were mean on it during the lunch hour. So, anyway, we got the transformer handled too. Put a big ring around it.
Slim, do these paths move? For instance, if you do a space once, do you have to redo it after a certain period of time?
Occasionally, we'll find that a new zone will show up. I can't explain that. I don't know why that happens.
Well, it makes
Yeah.
sense, but really.
Yeah, once in a while. It's not a frequent thing.
I have an opportunity right now to put some blocks in a space that's just being built, and I was thinking about doing that.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. We worked in this geopathic work with all of the building professions, I mean, from A to Z. Even worked with a couple of dairy farms where their milk production had been going down steadily. Knock out the geopathic zones, correct a couple of electrical faults in the buildings, reduce that stress level, and milk production up dramatically. Very dramatically. Go talk to some realtors, property managers, personnel managers would be particularly interesting. We found in several cases where we did medium-sized businesses and warehouses that the interpersonal relationships with the staff just improved dramatically. All the bickering went away, and better cooperation, fewer misunderstood orders.
How about accidents?
Accident rates would do that. So, anytime you take stress off, your overall health, used in the broadest terms, is going to improve. We've had several businesses that have gone from a plateau, kind of bumping their butt, so to speak. They were doing okay, but not great. And after the geopathic stress was relieved, a dramatic upturn in the flow of business and the bottom line. One fellow last year had a contract that had been hanging fire for a year, $2 million contract. And I got his wife to do an on-camera interview about exactly what happened. God, she's a sweetheart. But she tells the story so well. I wish I had that copy here now so you could see it live. But she is a beautiful young blonde lady, very spiritually aware, very uptone person. And she told me how her husband's business took off after we did the geopathic test there. And the contract had been hung up in Washington for months and months and months. Got finalized and found, literally, they found it on the shelf in Washington, D.C. after we neutralized the grid there in Boulder. And then they added more to it. They wanted to do more research. So here's an ongoing $2 million defense contract. A week later, another $1 million contract. A week after that, another big contract. Now he's got so much business and doing so well, he's overworking himself. And he's getting ready to sell the business at its high peak where it's really being successful. So he can sell out for a really good figure and still have as much of the business as he wants. So that was one of our really big successes.
So
we've seen others do the same. They'll go from say 100,000 a year to 2 million a year in a year.
So you're saying you did this work in Boulder and it affected the paperwork and stuff in Washington, D.C.? Okay, so what things come up. Okay, so I'm trying to kind of get it straight in my mind. You do it. The personal work on the personal house or whatever, or the business,
Yeah,
it would affect whatever goes out that's connected to that business?
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
It affects the overall grid, the hologram, if you will.
Mhm.
And you can view it in those terms. The business owner in question there was very creative. He dropped out of high school and started his business career. He's been extremely successful, just a genius. Education would have slowed him down a lot. So, anyway, he was complaining that he couldn't be creative. Sitting in that corner of his office, and his creativity just began to fall off, and he couldn't focus, and couldn't think, and things were stuck. So after he knocked out the geopathics, then all of a sudden, within a day, his creativity and his energy level came up and brightened up, and the communication lines opened. Now these are on the etheric communication lines. Okay. So if his mind is in trouble, the guy that he's been talking to in Washington all of a sudden says, oh, there's no trouble out there. He kind of remembered the contract, and if they needed this done, got the job done, so on and so on. But this is called in physics, this is action at a distance. Okay, this is supposedly not possible, but some of the scientists, theoreticians are saying, well, you can do that, but we don't understand it exactly. Well, now we have chaos theory, we have holographic theories, and we're beginning to perceive in our own lives the effects of us doing something in California affecting it in Washington, D.C. But there is a direct link between all of us, and this is starting to prove those links.
That study that they did on the crossword puzzles in England,
I'm not aware of it.
They experimented with, in the London Times, by releasing a puzzle that they had released a day or two earlier in London, withholding it in the northern part of England, and then they timed the solution to the puzzle, people doing the puzzle. And those people that the puzzle was released to 2 days later could solve it in half the time.
Wow. That's interesting. Hunter's monkey.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we have started doing the work along the Front Range in Denver, from Colorado Springs up north to Fort Collins, we've seen, one, a tremendous growth in that area. People are moving in by the thousands. The growth is phenomenal. And we've seen the level of optimism in that area increase dramatically. A tremendous increase in optimism. Business is just going gung-ho there. Beginning to look like California. There's been a slow trend in that direction for 50 years. But currently the trend is accelerating. And the number of houses being built and the enthusiasm and creativity has really come up dramatically. And I'm estimating that between what Bill and I have done and the people who trained in that area, that's where we trained most people, is right there along that front range, probably 500 in that area. And they have trained people. So this, as we figured out the downline numbers, we're estimating there's been at least 120,000 homes that had the geopathic work done in that Denver, Fort Collins corridor. And within 2 years, we could see the shift begin as the numbers increased. And the changes in people and the excitement and the activity and the creativity and the better communications. The improvement in interpersonal communications is just really dramatic.
Have you, by any chance, trained anybody in New York? I saw, the reason I'm asking, I saw some news show on television about how everyone's going, what's up with New York? Like crime is down and people are being nice to each other and, not pushing each other on the
Okay,
subways.
what's happened there is that we have probably a half dozen harmonizers and tapes in New York. And that started 3 years ago.
They were interviewing like this man that was a head of the emergency room in one of the hospitals and said, he was saying like three or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
people would come in all the time with gunshot wounds, dying all over the place. It's like a war zone, and now you hardly see it.
Yeah.
And everybody, they thought it was like the new governor or something, his new policy or whatever.
Yeah, There's a line in Lao Tzu's book. What do they call it? Well, anyway, old Lao Tzu.
Tao Te Ching.
Tao Te Ching. The line in there says that the sage does his work in secret. But he does the work and it gets done and he doesn't take credit for it. Well, I'm going to take credit for it. So I'm not a sage. The effects we've seen in Denver, crime rate in Denver is down 50% in the last 3 years. And that's a combination of the geopathic work we've done in the major zones that we've suppressed. These major zones that we've worked on there in Denver have center lines 300 feet wide. You can't block those with a set of rocks. Have required the development of what we call the R2 units. And those placed outside, way outside city limits. And we quieted that whole area down, modified the grid.
Your dowsing rod will stay wide open for 300 yards?
No. On those, I can't even find those with dowsing rods. We had to use clairvoyant. You could see those energies. My youngest son is, a great big guy like this, is the clairvoyant. And we had, other indications from clairvoyance that there was something really bad going on. They could roughly identify it, but they didn't have the same accuracy of vision. And so we took a drive around Denver one day, and that was in February of 91, I believe. And we located those zones, and we did block one. We could block one with a ring technique. We used a big heavy cable. It made a huge ring. It was only 70 feet across. So we had enough scrap cable in the back of the car ride to do it. But that particular zone controlled the level of optimism in the city. And the control point is what is known as the cryogenics lab at the Martin Marietta plant there in Denver. And the zone came out of that building, intersected the natural zone that ran up north-south, made a right angle turn, and crossed the city.
They made a right angle turn?
Yeah. Now, this is quite an unusual circumstance, and I believe it's a deliberate man-made system, or it could be purely accidental.
So you put a ring on, a round ring on the ground flat, and that just sent it
turned
up.
one edge up like you bend a taco, and that I broke that field and caused it to go totally underground, just wiped it out. And the zone ran almost 40 miles across the city there. And it intersected it up in the north end of town. And what we knew to be a very heavily geopathically stressed area. And since we blocked it, the crime rate and the crime rate's going down and the health rate is going up in that area. And I believe there were two major hospitals sitting in that, what was a very bad geopathic zone. And I think there were about 115 hospitals.
After that.
So how wide an area will one of those little, do you think is your rods cover?
Well, you're just blocking that 1 inch center line.
Just one inch, is this as much as that will do? That's as wide as that would do, that would block? What do you need to block something wider than the 1 inch?
You probably won't find those. They're not very common.
very common.
You probably won't find those. Unless you get a clairvoyant that spots it.
And if you do get a clairvoyant
If
that
you're living
spots
in that area, get out.
it, or block it,
Well,
you can get out, huh?
currently we don't.
You can get out of Oakland.
Yeah, well, I hope to do a workshop up there this fall.
I hope you do too.
I'd like to do that. I got a brother living there in Concord.
In Concord?
I haven't seen him in a couple of years. Kind of like to see what the old hippie's doing. Okay.
Probably like to see you too, what you're doing.
Well, that scared the socks off me. Started. Really spooky, believe me. Really spooky. I took a coil and reduced pain in his lower back for the first time in years and years. Totally changed his personality. Within 3 days, he was completely different. One of the most dramatic things I've ever seen in my life.
What was his symptom? I mean, was it like arthritis or what?
Just low back pain. I think it was immunity. It was different, totally different personality. Very, very negative. And he's been negative all his life. I had that pain most of the time.
So you did it with the cough?
Yeah, it was about 20 minutes.
What kind of cough? It's a regular one?
Okay, so we've been talking about the grid. If you stretch the fishnet on a basketball, that's about what it would look like. That's a broad concept, or you could call this the Earth grid, and imagine that our longitude and latitude lines would indicate a grid pattern. And these would be the major grid lines. These are the biggies. And in your workbook, there's one of the first pages, there's a illustration of the Earth. That's out of the anti-gravity handbook. And it represents some of the key points, literally CHI key points, or KUI points, that we would like to address eventually. We did address the one point there in Giza, which is basically the 000 point on this grid. So we hit home Center master acupuncture point. And we'll see what happens. We're still watching pretty carefully. If we say this is a major grid system, and we say this is Outlands, Colorado, and go down to this size, and then we say we've got all the road system, the electric distribution system, the county lines, the various political subdivisions, another kind of grid. We've all seen maps, we have an idea of that. We go up here to spot one small area and call it your house. And we get to this concept of a very clean space, a clean bubble. Take this circle and make it three-dimensional, and have a clean bubble with no grid. Okay, so that's what we're headed for. Then what I'd like to show here is a very crude representation of what we're talking about here. The grid lines are vertical planes. I wish we had a better way to illustrate that. But the Hartman grid has a width this way, about a hand width, about 8 inches. And the center line is only an inch wide. Clairvoyants who see these see them from 60 to 600 feet above ground level. Some areas very high stress will be higher and maybe a little wider. And just prior to an earthquake, anywhere on the planet, this line will extend its thickness and probably its height, extend its thickness out to about 30 inches. 30 inches, yeah.
The,
Prior to an earthquake.
Just prior to the quake now.
is that the center line that goes out?
No,
30
just
inches, or
the whole
influence?
zone. Goes from 8 inches wide out to about 30 inches. Approximately. And that'll happen 3 days before the quake. And it'll start increasing its strength. And that's why some people are highly affected by earthquakes. We have the earthquake sensors. And they'll get real accurate on their predictions. The so-called geopathic zone is usually a little bit more aggressive. It's a little stronger. It has a thicker zone. They can be a couple of 3 feet normally. You'll find them up to a couple of 100 feet. A zone of influence, the band on either side of the center line. But they'll still have only the one in center line. It's just how strongly they're vibrating or what the field tension is there. And we've seen these points, we'll see them minimum of 600 feet, and we've actually seen the disruption in certain cloud patterns at 30,000 feet over a major fault zone. And it's quite visible. There's a nice smooth plane of clouds, and there's about a mile wide stretch that's all turned up and has a different pattern.
So when an airplane goes through that, what happens?
Nothing much. You'll notice. You take your dowsing rods on the plane. You won't find these very often at 30,000 feet. There's not too many of them. But you're flying along, you estimate you've traveled 20, 30, 50 miles. Rods open. Oh, there's one. Big fall zone. I've done that in the car, locating the ley lines, which are a positive message.
I have to tell you an experience. Back in March, I flew from Oakland down to Orange, down to John Wayne. And as we got over Catalina Island, maybe about a mile south or so, all of a sudden I was sitting there looking at the airplane going, what is that? And I could feel this energy. And I was just, and it lasted maybe about 5-10 minutes. We approached John Wayne Airport and it just kind of smoothed out. On June 1st, I'm kind of linked up with the Earthlink mission. And on June 1st, I got an email for alignment of the fire ring. And the point that was putting out negative energy is 20 miles south of Catalina.
Wow.
We flew in yesterday, and I thought, oh, we're just about near that area now. And I was just kind of, okay, let's see. And I thought, yes, we did it. We did it.
All right.
Where we live also, up in the hills, is the Hayward Fault. And so sometimes on the way home from our work, we'll take a ride up on what they call Highway 13, which is right on the fault line. And there's a stretch of the hills up there, I guess it's pretty wide. And I just sit there and all of a sudden it's like, what is this? And it happens every single time. And then I can feel it fade out. And then we'll go maybe another mile and it'll intensify again.
That's why I was asking how, on those real wide lines, how could you get rid of them? Other than leaving Oakland totally.
The best we can currently do is to modify the energy there. We can't eliminate it entirely. It would take a considerable bit of engineering to completely eliminate those energies from the city region. Ideally, we use REM technology, with some pretty heavy copper cable, several thousand pounds of it. We build an earth bank across that area, just goes up a hump and turn one edge up on that hump and then bury the whole cable, maybe a foot or two down.
Is that on the fault line you're talking about?
Fault line or whatever we're locating as these major paths.
What are the effects of having the harmonizers on the fault line?
We modify it. We're able to change it a little bit so it's not quite as bad. And that's what we've done in Denver. We put the R2 units on the grid.
Can you talk a little bit about what you have noticed about earthquakes and their origin, what you've come across?
That's probably tomorrow's topic. Yeah, bring that up for me again. I think we can either reduce the effect of earthquakes just by local action with the rings, or eliminate them entirely. That was our research in '94.
Do they cause the geopathic lines, or do the geopathic lines cause the earthquake faults?
As above, so below.
Okay.
I tend to think it's from above. So, how do we get into this geopathic stress in your home? What's it look like? What happens? Ideally, this is what we'd like to see. We'd like to see it free and clear of any problems. Unfortunately, we start with the Hartman grid, which is a fairly regular network, about 6.5 by 8 feet. The Hartman grid is regular. When you find it, it's extremely regular. Occasionally, it'll be slightly skewed. In other words, the lines don't form right angles. And that's just a local phenomenon. Don't worry about it. If your rods want to follow the center line, it's not exactly north and south. Don't worry about it. It's just a local phenomenon. So the energy flows from the south this way and from the west. And that's the only thing you have to be concerned with Hartman grid. Located on the south side, west side, block it, you're done. You don't have to look for it on the other two sides of the house. Notice the locations of some of these grid lines. The bedrooms, the crossings on the bed, the dining table, here at the entertainment center, on the couch, right through the John, if you pass out on the John through the stove. The old man sits at this end of the table. He always got something to bitch about. Or mom sits at that end of the table and she goes ballistic as soon as she sits down and starts eating. You know, no comment before. I mean, everything's fine. Sits down at the table, bingo. There she goes. Okay.
She blows.
This phenomenon has come to many people's attention that they feel very, very uncomfortable in certain locations at home. Or a couple will notice that they only have arguments when they're in a specific location. One of them will start the argument, the other one can't figure out what's wrong. What did I do? Wait a minute. I didn't do it. And the argument is very one-sided and very, well, difficult or impossible to understand. Person can't figure out why they're being attacked. Okay? Because what happens in these geopathic stress zones, the person who's affected is seeing everything in reverse mirror. And you wonder where this crazy talk is coming from. You can't figure it out. It's from the geopathic stress. It acts like an inverting mirror. Anything you say, anything the person sees from that point, it's reverse of the actual fact.
This is the Hartman process.
Hartman or geopathic or personal, any of the generalized geopathic stresses.
Okay.
But I wanted to cover a few of those things here before I get into the rest of them. All of these geopathic stress phenomena occur no matter what name you give it. It's basically the same phenomena occur. But to distinguish between them allows you to begin to think that other areas of your life, other phenomena can be addressed in the same way. It took me a long time to figure that out. But wherever there's a stress in your cash flow, your communications, your business affairs, anything like that, you go douse for that specific item. What's blocking communication? What's blocking cash flow? What's interfering with business? Use the term blocking or interfering, doesn't matter. And locate those zones and neutralize them, divert them over the house, and think of that problem disappears out of your life. It's really simple.
Very simple.
Really simple.
It's incredible.
And I found simple things like, well, just for instance, communication. Geez, I haven't gotten a phone call in 3 weeks. Nobody's calling in. It was a sudden change. Let's see, communication. Okay, there must be a block, something blocking communication. I grabbed the rods, went out, circled around, found 4 or 5 lines that basically all crossed right where I did my telephone work. And I blocked them, and within 30 minutes, the phone started ringing. And it hasn't quit.
Unblock it.
Good, take those broadcasts.
What a break.
It was incredible. I mean, I was dumbfounded to discover that. I couldn't believe that there could be some specific thing that was blocking communication. And it's a subtle energy. All right. I did the same thing for cash flow. I did the same thing for general business. Sleep problems. What's interfered with my sleep? It may not be Hartman good. It may not be geopathic. It may be some specific frequency that interferes with your sleep only. Not your husband, not your wife's. Your sleep only. So you locate that zone, or 2 or 3, whatever it happens to be, block it, and bingo, off the la-la land.
Is that what you mean by the personal zone? I mean, the thing that affects you only, or? I'm
That
not sure
can
what you
be,
mean.
that can be included in, these are very general titles. You can get real specific, ask specific questions.
And all of these are from the west or the south. No matter whether it's communication, cash flow, whatever, all of these originate.
They can be from any direction, at any angle.
Which ones specific then are from the west or the south? Just the heart.
Hartman grid only is from the west or the south.
And do they have any idea what is causing the Hartman lines? No. But you do have an idea what causes the geopathics.
But the Hartman lines, you said 6.5 to 8 feet wide, is that consistent across the planet?
Inches.
Inches.
The
Inches?
center line spacing,
Feet.
the center line spacing
Oh, okay.
is about 6.5 by 8 feet. This is the spacing of the center line.
And then,
An inch wide, yeah.
so if you find one that's somewhere within 8 feet, there'll be another one.
Probably. Now, in any natural system, this is a natural system, you'll find variations. The exception proves the rule, so to speak. Just like no 2 tree leaves have exactly the same measurements. Within a genera of trees, several species, you'll find a variation in the pattern. This is also true of the Hartman grid. And I found the Hartman grid as close together as 2 feet in both dimensions, and as far apart as 40 yards. So there can be variation.
Have you ever had the opportunity to examine what we might call a sacred site?
In Egypt, yes.
And what was the absence of,
We found, like Blanche Mers described in her book, we found the Hartman grid bunched at the entrances, outside the temples. There were 7 or 8 of them real close together, but absent within the structure itself. Hence, sacred sites.
Wow.
Yeah. A couple of temples have them specifically located in certain areas. They're bunched together within the temple. And these are in the passages from one room to another. They're pretty innocuous to your needs.
You done any testing the pyramids with this?
No, I didn't go in the pyramid when I was there. And we checked outside, checked for geopathic zones. Didn't find any geopathic zones, in the immediate vicinity.
So in your estimation, would those people have known a lot more than we do now.
Absolutely. In as much as the guys that did pyramids, et cetera, probably established the grid. Probably established on purpose.
So they gridlocked the planet, and what we're doing is
Yeah.
unlocking the
As I
grid.
mentioned yesterday, we could even consider the old Lucifer concept
Yeah.
of casting that on the whole earth.
Um,
This could very well be that map.
It's time.
And it really interferes with folks.
So each time we go at a center point and break that, it does change the whole, right?
Well, all we can really do
Or the
is,
face.
it would be like, putting a basketball under the rug.
Uh-huh.
We're just lifting. We're just lifting that grid locally. But it does have an effect. I mean, as you do more and more homes in an area.
So with this energy flow, it flows this way and this way. Anything that would be at that intersection could continue on in that flow, right? I mean, since it's a flow, it's not a static or still, it's like,
Right.
so you could program, I'm just thinking of other ways that could be used. It's just.
Yeah, well, let's just lift the grid and get our minds clear.
And then work with it.
Okay, the old Moxon telegraph, our Indian communication system. The old shaman would get on some of these major grid lines. They knew the points, they knew the intersections. Well, see, it's about sun up, I think I'll go over here and sit on this spot. And his counterpart in the next camp, 50, 100 miles away, would go sit on the other end of the telephone. These lines are communication lines.
That's what I was thinking.
You can transmit information on them very easily, especially on the telepathic comm line.
That's what I was thinking.
Now, you want to make sure you're on a ley line, not on a geopathic zone.
Can you teach us how to distinguish them from?
Yeah, the ley lines are positive. They're few and far between. They're not very common. It's more laid out on the world grid pattern. Depending on just how close you are to the intersection, how far apart you are. They're in a triangular grid. They're not a rectangular grid. Ley lines are in a triangle.
Oh, okay.
So depending on where you are, the distance apart between them.
Tell us about our homes a minute. If we find these systematically, like your grid there, and we have to block these lines in the south and the west, like you said, now, as we go through our homes and find that different places that we are at constantly, then we must change our place to eat, places, no? We can, after it's blocked, it's okay?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Okay, my question will follow hers, is what is the height, the depth of the room?
You can figure a couple of 100 feet minimum,
So if you're
or
doing,
several hundred feet minimum.
if
The
you're doing.
stronger the zones, the better the effect.
This is the basketball under the rug, Slim. Is this what we're talking about? It's 200 feet high?
Right.
Yeah.
Ah, I got it.
2, 4, 6, 8.
So if you're doing a tall building, how many would you
We
do?
have successfully worked from ground level on the 30th floor.
Slim, how do you distinguish between the admin lines and the geopathic lines? How can you identify?
You just ask for, you just say, I want the Hartman lines.
Okay.
And you'll find the Hartman lines. If you want geopathics, you'll find geopathics, personal communications. Your own mind is like tuning a radio. You've got a whole range of so-called bandwidths, radio stations or television stations. And you can find those interference patterns.
necessary to always have a material object to block the line? In other words, is it not possible to mentally block the line when it's
There are some who claim they can do that. I've not seen solid evidence of that. And the reason I say that is that these lines are extremely energetic. They're placed there by some physical means. It's not an etheric machine, in other words, or an etheric device that places or generates that energy. These are actual physical structures or machines that generate these lines, as far as we can tell. And I can use the Earth itself as an illustration of a machine. It's a generator for electromagnetic forces and gravitic forces.
And what forces?
Gravitic, gravity forces. So it's actually a machine. We have movement, we have electrical flows, we have energy flows generated by the motion of the Earth. So we can look at that as a machine.
Can you also look at these harmonizers as a machine?
Yes, they are.
So you could have something setting up somewhere as a machine that's generating these grids, right?
Yeah, this house is a machine. It generates a certain energy field in and of the nature of the materials, the nature of the structure, the design, the pattern, the angles, the height, width. It's a machine in a real sense.
So do you feel like there's some malefic force or an energy that
If we can
creates
accept the concept of a Luciferian agenda off the planet somewhere. Yeah, not different than our radio stations, not different than our television stations, not different than the global network of communication systems, not different than our communication satellites. Something like that could very well be generating that. If we can accept this concept of old Lucifer, the devil, Satan, whatever you want to call it, said, I will cast a net upon the whole earth. That's a willful, malevolent action. And I'm not going to dig into religion. To me, religion is science.
right?
The better scientist you are, the more you know about religion. So that's what I want to work on. So anyway, the geopathics can be a crack in the rock or a fissure in the soil, and they have a specific direction. They'll flow from this way, or they'll flow at an angle. Then they flow in opposite directions to the first one you find. And you'll find them even side by side. One flowing one direction, one flowing back the other way. But you only block the one going that way, and you go over here and block the one coming back.
So they're always in pairs?
Not always, they can be. And as you map out a piece of ground, you may see that. You'll see a slight offset on the compass, from the compass line. You may see a slight offset. We can, hopefully we can pull some tape on that. I forgot to bring my surveyor's tape.
And Slim, in the blocking process, am I understanding this correctly? First you block from the south and from the west.
Right.
And that takes care of the Hartman and takes care of some of the geopathic.
Nope.
But then you also need.
Only the Hartman. First you go through and block. First you block the Hartman. You're only tuning into the Hartman. Then you go back around, reset your radio dial, and look for the geopathic zones. Go all the way around and block them.
4 sides, 4 compass directions.
4 directions.
Got it, thank you.
Then, once you have that done, let's go through this. Let's say we've got superimposition here. We've got one grid superimposed on another. We always have arguments at the dining table.
Whoa.
Wow.
What a mess. Pity the poor guy or gal sleeping in this bed. 2 geopathic zones crossing right at the waistline or the crotch. No interest in sex? Oh, gee, he's frigid. He's impotent. Oh, yeah? Knock the zones out and watch what happens.
Yeah.
High level of interest there, yeah. There's the food being prepared here in the kitchen. Crossing the stove. The stuff picks up the energy from these zones. I don't care how much love you put into it, that's going to affect the food. Your storage area, maybe you store your food where the stuff runs through. Where your car's parked, you got geopathic crossing the area here by the battery. The battery's always going bad. Gee whiz, block the zones, you never have a problem with it. We've seen it in at least 100 cases.
Oh my God.
Seen it in at least 100 cases. Or park your car in another area. The battery won't go dead. We've had one instance where there was a transformer right about here. It really amped up all of these zones. They were very, very close together. The gal had her car in 1 year. She got it repainted 3 times.
Wow.
Whoa.
She had the complete electrical system torn out and replaced 3 times. This was a brand new Cadillac. Cadillac finally said, I don't know what you're doing. Don't ever come back.
All in warranty, right?
Yeah. The salesman thought she was a jinx.
Yeah.
And the service people were just beside themselves trying to figure out what the problem was.
Or you think you have your car as a lemon.
Yeah.
Probably nothing wrong with the car the way it was built. It was just where she parked it. We finally, of course, we did knock out the geopathics. We put a ring around the pole under the transformer. And took a piece of stiff copper bar and she jams that up against the frame every night when she parks it. So she grounded it. And she hasn't had any more problems. Paint holes on, no more electrical trouble.
What's the personal zone?
Right, the personal zones, the way we discovered this, we'd taken the geopathics and the Hartman out of the home, completely eliminated. This was about, I guess, 6 months, 8 months into our cycle when we started doing this as a business full time. One of our first clients was a ginseng practitioner, very, very good healer. Been at it for 20 years. But she'd been sick with this quote, environmental illness. And she couldn't go in a safe way or couldn't drive a car because she just got too affected in her nerves. So she did a lot better after we knocked out the geopathics and the heart. Really made significant improvements. So as we kept in touch with her, maintaining contact to follow the progress, she kept complaining, well, I'm not doing as good as I think I should be doing. The husband's okay, the kids are okay, everything's fine, but she just wasn't doing very well. okay, well, we'll come back, maybe we missed something, and, always allow that you can miss one. Don't get too cocksure about this. And, Bill and we drilled each other until we had absolute certainty. And even today, I'll go back through and check one more time if I missed it. Anyway, went up there, couldn't find the Hartman grid, no geopathics. The place was clean as a whistle. And she said, well, yeah, but it's coming right through my bedroom window at this angle. No Hartman grid, no geopathics. I couldn't find it. And I said, here, you take the rod, you climb it. Show me where it is. Well, she did. Well, the rod opened just where she said it was. What am I missing? It's not Hartman, not geopathic. Well, maybe it's just something that affects her. So I got her vibration, put my hand on her shoulder, got the vibration, took the rods, bingo. So that's why we call it a personal zone. It just affected her personally. Very individual, very distinct. Her personal dissonance vibration.
So you program the L rods for a Hartman line and then the geopathic line and then the personal zone. You program for all three.
Well, I don't know if you program. You just say, I'm looking for geopathic. You'll find it. Or the Hartman personals. You can find your own personal zone, or you can find what we call the personal zones for anyone in the group, or everyone.
And then, okay, so you don't have a problem with that blocking off the ley line, which are the good lines.
No, we're only concerned with negative energies, the stress zones that have a pathologic effect. And the pathology can be on the spiritual, mental, emotional, or physical. Because this is subtle energy. Believe me, it's subtle.
Is there anything that we might have in the house which would make it difficult to locate any of these lines, such as, my house is full of medical magnets and some really strong ones? Or stuff like any kind of machine that generates a negative ion generator or right generator or something like that.
I have been told by a number of dowsers, and if you read the dowsing literature, whoever's writing the book will say you can't dowse after sunset, you can't dowse at night, you can't dowse when there's a cloud cover, you can't dowse in the vicinity of a radio tower, you can't dowse if you've got a magnet in your pocket or a pocket knife or steel or any coins. If you have any metal on your body, you can't dowse. If you're wearing rubber sole shoes, you can't dowse. Bullshit.
Thank you.
I've heard dowsers talk about all the shibboleths, all the things they can't do. Well, I'm kind of a rebel. I don't believe that because I've always worn rubber-soled shoes and had a big belt buckle and a pocket knife and some change. So to prove it, put a 5-pound magnet in my back pocket and went out and dowsed. No problem. Seemed to make it a little easier, actually. I took a 5-pound bar of silver, put it in my back pocket, and went out there, found exactly what I was looking for. No problem. You can only use a perfectly cut natural crystal pendulum. Nonsense. You can use anything. Anything. I won't go into the scatology of that, but you can even use that. On the end of the string.
Slim, So when you're walking around, do you necessarily have to walk around for a financial, personal, whatever, or can you just shotgun it and say any and all harmful zones?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you really can do that. There's, well, here again, it's not something to be shibboleth. I just find it much easier. It's a nicer, cleaner job for me to do each one individually.
Pinpoint issues.
Yeah. If you're focusing on any item, then you can clean those up in succession. Yeah, you can go ahead and shotgun it if you want to. But you're gonna get a little surprise at how frequent the lines come up.
Like I was discussing yesterday, if mechanically you had between two layers of tape or whatever, just a bunch of horseshoe shapes and just nail it on the wall, you know?
Yeah.
Just no matter what they are, they'll just be blocked.
But isn't it true that if you, because I remembered asking, well, why don't we just put rods all the way around our house? And that if you have a complete circuit, that would be harmful. If you just put, like if you just lay rods all the way around.
Waste of wire and time for them. Nice, clean, easy job, simple, cheap, minimum material.
Yeah, I know there would be pros and cons to it, but let's say a ley line shifted or whatever,
Oh, well.
or he wasn't a really good dowser, you know, all of the.
But you're gonna be a good dowser by the end
Yeah.
of the day. You don't have to wait for the master. In 2-3 days, you'll be a master dowser. Don't worry about it.
So what's the average blockers that an average home would need to block all three of those negative lines, ballpark?
How much what?
What's the average number of blocks that you've got, the little X blocks that you would have to use for your home to block those three negative lines?
There's no average. If I had to give a number, this property will probably take 10 pounds of rod, 10 pounds of each, 1,000 rods. Bundle that big. And I'm expecting this to be average, but I don't insist that it be average. It'll be what it is.
Oh, okay.
In other words,
the bury that you will bury in the ground or
yeah,
whatever.
It varies on the size, or how far outside the perimeter you go. If you come right up close to the house, that minimizes the amount of rods you need.
One more question, sir. We have a house and we have a garden. When you do this work, should we do it from inside of the house or should we do it from the outside of the open property?
Outside. Get out to the perimeter of the property. Presuming it isn't many acres, just outside your most common use area. But in any case, particularly when you're dealing with a critical condition, do it as quick as you can for the person. Go right in. Don't worry about the yard and trees and all that stuff. That can be a concern. Do that at your leisure, or train them and let them do it at their leisure. But go in and get the job done and get on with it.
I just want to clarify, you say that there is no harmful effect to simply running like a copper rod continuously all the way around the perimeter of the house?
Probably not. No harmful effect that I would know of, but I get tired of this.
I mean, just to lay it just on the ground.
Yeah. What we have found is where there are, for instance, the metal edging they use in flower beds, for some reason that doesn't block the zones. I can't explain that. The metal fences don't block the zones. I can't explain that. But these little rods do block it, and I can't explain that.
Because they are copper versus.
There's just a light copper wash on that. They're just very thin coating. they're steel rods.
Oh.
You can use pure copper, they'll last longer. These rods will last probably 7 to 10 years in this climate.
So theoretically, could you vary just a copper wire, a straight wire, versus having the rod shape?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, just a short length of wire.
You can just place a wire down there.
Yeah.
Versus doing the little crossing of the L bars.
Yeah, that does work.
The apartment line and the geopathic line, do they skew or do they go on a perfect plumb line?
I have not found them to skew. They may. If I block them on an upper floor level, I block them at the point that I find right there where the rods are pointing. So I'm not worried if it's coming up at an angle. I've heard reports, I've seen diagrams and write-ups on this. They do have an angular factor to it. If you locate them on the floor level where you are, that's of no importance. It's where you find them on the ground, that's important. And the clairvoyants that we work with indicate that, they're just a vertical line. Now, they may wander a little bit, it may be a slightly curved line, but it's not anything to be concerned about.
So basically, where this, say, for instance, the personal zone, one's personal zone could be upstairs. Will the base always be at the ground floor?
Yes. Yeah, this etheric energy cuts right through all materials that we know of.
So it's not necessary to go upstairs and put everything on.
No, once you've done it outside, the whole place is clean.
So, you would need about 16 blocks on a ballpark figure to block out that picture right there. You got 16 negative lights. That's what I was asking.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
That's like an average home there.
No, this is just for illustration purposes. Yeah.
Would that be excessive or minimal?
This would be a very minimal.
Minimum?
This would be a very minimal.
Oh.
So you would just get, but actually, if you went and put, block it on like the south and the west side, you wouldn't have to worry about the crossings through there because it's blocked, right?
Yeah.
So 10 pounds of wire would be how many blocks could you make from 10 pounds of wire?
I don't know.
50?
Which is the, okay. These are
I
fenced
see.
then?
Oh, I see. Okay.
So,
I don't know. Honestly, I go on such a broad scale of things that the only time I get real critical is on locating that zone and making sure I've got, a couple of good bundles of rod with me when I'm out in the field. We buy this rod instantly in 50-pound boxes, and that seems like an awful lot. I mean, gee, I've got to carry all that stuff. But after you've done about 3 or 4 homes, and you see how fast that rod disappears, you realize that even at anywhere from, the rod will cost you anywhere from $50 to $100 for 50 pounds, depending on where you buy it. Average 60 to 70. But that's still the cheapest, fastest way to get the job done. Per unit, per stick of wire, that's really cheap. Don't buy it stick by stick in the hardware store. It's about anywhere from 16 to 20 cents per rod. Ridiculous.
so the way you have this with okay, Okay, with the bend in it. Now, what is it actually that blocks the energy, the geopathic zones or the Hartman zones? Is it the straightening? Is it the bend? Is it the angle? Can you?
You can just take a straight piece of rod, put it down across that zone, it'll block.
Oh, just the straight piece of rod. Okay, that's what I was.
Why would one go to the trouble of building an omega coil then if just the straight would do it? Or does the omega do it a little bit more efficient?
That seems to work better. I can't explain why. I don't know.
Working better as opposed to the lines that go on the outside or just inside?
It doesn't matter where you put the omega coil. It doesn't matter where you put the rod. It's just my personal preference to work in the dirt outside. There's less disruption in the house. You don't have these loose pieces scattered around or have to tape to the wall. Get them in the ground, get them out of sight, and it's done. So it's just that simple. Let's take a little break. Get started.
So it seems to be here.
If you're in strange territory, you can't find north. And I get that way when I'm away from the mountains. I don't orient myself too well. I gotta wait till it's dark and then check pole star and see which way north is. But a compass is pretty handy for checking on your orientation for the Hartman grid. You just go over on the south side and the north side or the west side of the house. So I've been in the habit of carrying that and keep it in my kit. I use a briefcase, old beat up briefcase for holding tools and the rod and a few omega coils. I find a brick hammer is really handy. Sometimes you have to dig a channel in hard ground, or sometimes you have to drive the spike in so that you can get the rods in a little easier. Sometimes you just need to loosen the ground. And this is a real handy tool for that. It's about anywhere from 10 to 15 bucks. At any good hardware store, supply house, contractor supply, secondhand stores, sometimes you find them. So that's number one tool. Then for getting into real tight spots, mechanics, I call it either a lady finger or a taper pin. It's tapered from small to large, and the hook helps you pull it out if it gets a bit stuck. And if you're driving into hard ground or into crack in asphalt, they can get a little bit tight. So that helps you get them loose. And then the taper, you just whack it from side to side with the hammer a few times and it'll spring and loosen up. So that makes a real handy tool.
Where do you get that?
Automotive supply houses,
okay.
mechanic shops, hardware stores. Taper, T-A-P-E-R. And a pair of good quality aircraft tin snips. They're a multiplying, what's called a compound pliers. And real short blades on them. You can shear both the copper wire for the omegas, and you can shear the bundle of the welding rod. It comes in a 36-inch length, about so long. You just cut it in half, and you can take several, just fill the jaws, and either use your leg, push against, or get down on the ground and you shove against the floor. You put your whole weight on that top handle. And you can shear a bundle that'll wind up about that big in, a couple of 3 minutes. Really fast. But you have to be able to put your weight on it to get that shearing action. The rods themselves are, the choice is a 3/32. Gas, mild steel, rod, well rod. Okay, they're stiff enough that you can shove them in the ground at an angle into most soils. If it's too stiff and it bends and there's a lot of rocks and all that, then go to your claw and brick hammer and dig a little trench, loosen it up. You only have to get them into the ground maybe an inch. Gets them out of the way of the lawn mowing and raking and all of your yard tending activities. So they're very unobtrusive. You'll never see them again, but they're there doing the job. And it's quite a simple operation. When we're done here this afternoon, we'll have something that looks like this. We'll have 3 different colors or flavors of these zones that have been diverted up and over. They're blocked where the red marks are here, and it goes up and over. So you're literally in a bubble that extends from out in the yard over the house, and you're free of that geopathic stress from that point on. So this is what it would look like if you could view it in color like the clairvoyants do. So that finishes the technical and formal presentation on geopathic stress. Now we're going to go out in the field, get a set of rods in our hands, locate them, and have fun. Okay? All right. One last concept that is important, and it's something that we've discovered both by rumor and by direct observation. If we let the red grid represent in the most general terms the Hartman and geopathic zone grid, there is another factor. And let's say that we're just catching every 100th one, something like that, maybe 200. So this map would cover maybe 2 square miles. What we found is that in some neighborhoods, and they're very ill-defined, but in some areas, like the green area would be an area where there's a high number of strokes. The blue area would be an area where there's a high number of heart attacks or cancer or other ailment. But that would be the most common disease in that square mile area. So neighborhoods or areas or districts will have a different influence. And that influence is riding on the grid lines, all of them in that area. Okay, I can't explain that. I don't know why it is. It's just merely an observation. For instance, there's an area north of Golden, about 5 miles east of the mountains, that the children, a high percentage of the children born in that area have I don't know the name of the condition, but the sutures don't grow in the skull case. So they go in and they do operation after operation after operation. And whatever it is, those sutures are permanently knit. They don't grow. And it's an area probably a mile radius. But all of them in that district, a majority of kids in that district have that same syndrome. Now, it occurs occasionally in other parts of Denver, but this area became known for that. And so a lot of young couples sold their homes. They're planning to have more kids. And they sold their homes, sold to older couples. And so there's quite a population shift there. And I think there'd been 3 kids or 4 kids born in the area, and then all of a sudden there was an exodus from that area. Very proper kind of thing to do. And we haven't yet found out if there's some factor that affects older folks that are not childbearing. But just be aware that there's heart attack neighborhoods, stroke neighborhoods, diabetes neighborhoods, cancer neighborhoods. And it can be a very small area, maybe a 5 or 10 block area, or it can be a square mile or more. Now, without making an adequate survey, we could postulate that over here in this area there's a substation, electrical substation. I don't like electrical power stuff anyway, and the substations are very suspect. You could also have a situation like a factory over in here that used a lot of electric power or was producing some product that involved a chemical. Now, if these lines go through a chemical storage area, they'll pick up the vibration of that chemical and transmit it along the lines.
Wow.
Okay, it's like moccasin telegraph again. So this chemical substance is not present. There's not a molecule of it outside of the barrel it's sitting in. But the frequency pattern is carried by the geopathic zone. We did a miniature study on that. We had a little storefront series of businesses. And here's a major intersection in Denver, and all these little storefronts in this building. Typical kind of a setup. There's a McDonald's up here, and a H&R Block here, and there's a nail parlor here, and some kind of a service rep in here. Down at this end, we had a chiropractor. Well, people would walk into her door and they were sensitive to chemicals. They have allergies. And they'd walk in the door and they'd start sneezing and complaining about odors, chemical odors, so on and so on. And she called us and said, well, come help. So we went in, we located all the geopathic zones on this side, and then realized that the nail parlor in this area had the chemical smell she was dealing with. So there were 2 zones going through this area, and mind you, they're 100 feet apart. No possibility of any molecular substance being in this chiropractor's face. So after we blocked the zones here, diverted that energy, she didn't have any more complaints. 0. It The same people who've been complaining time after time have no more complaints. We found in some locations very strong, well, I'm thinking one location in particular, very large home, multi-billion. And there was a zone ran through his bedroom and out through the kitchen, bedroom back in here, kitchen and entrance out here. And if you walked into this area, instantly you smell this very strong tropical plant odor. I recognized it as being a tropical plant, a poisonous plant. And he was not in good health, and so on, so on, so on, and couldn't keep any kitchen help. They all bailed out. And so when we blocked the zone out here by the street, we came up to it, and almost knocked it down. You're focused, you're open, the rod's open, they stepped into it, and bang. It was just like I absorbed the full dose of this poison. My wife was right beside me, and she went to her knees and knocked her down. So as soon as we blocked the zone, we got out of the area and kind of shrugged off and got rid of the energy. And after we finished the job, a couple hours later, we came back around, and there was no odor here. The odor up here was extremely strong outside the block spot. And as time went on, the man recovered his health a bit, changed his behavior, wasn't as toxic. And his girlfriend was delighted. So by blocking that, we probably saved him an early death, even though he didn't spend much time there. And that was a wild experience for us, and we were really blown away by it. Christine asked me to demonstrate one more thing that we do after every job. Every time you go out and do one of these jobs, you need to drain off that negative energy. A process we call switching. It's out of a kinesiological process, and it'll help you in a lot of different ways. But we absorbed that energy standing around in it, being exposed to it, down on our knees, hammering our rods in. And the way to eliminate it out of your system, rebalance, use the pressure points right under the collarbone. There's 2 points right beneath the collarbone, right, kind of little hollow spots in there. And they may be sore. That's the kidney meridian. They're so-called K27s or by any other name. So these 2 spots, reaching with one hand, there is get right in under those collarbones and dig around, you find a hollow. Place the other hand on the navel and just massage that gently for about a minute and a half.
Was that why I felt tired?
Yeah.
Kind of wasted.
Yeah, you feel kind of wasted.
Yeah.
All right. That'll happen in the ordinary course of the day. You happen to be sitting in one or sleeping in one. This little exercise can be done standing up, sitting down, laying in bed. If you can't sleep at night, it's a wonderful way to go to sleep. Okay? These, get the whiskers out of the way. It's about 4 inches apart. Right under the collarbone. Yeah, you got it.
That's what he said.
Okay, that's the spot.
So you don't have to do like the different,
No, not necessarily. And just a minute or so massage there.
It's not necessary to press hard.
Hmm?
It's not necessary to press hard.
Moderately hard, yeah, low pressure. Next point is above and below, right on the gum line. Press in towards the gums and fairly stiffly. You really need to press
But on the
in hard.
outside of your lip.
Yeah, but press against the gum line. And a short minute or two of massage there. Okay, the last point, right at the end of the tailbone. Hand on the navel, reach her in. Oh, I love this. Everybody laughs and giggles. She did. Right on the end of the tailbone. And it's really a lot of fun to stand out in the street.
Watch the little white truck drive up there.
You can go back in the bushes. You probably start feeling the sensations now of the tingling in the legs. That's the energy draining off, going down the ground.
So it's the right hand of the navel?
Doesn't matter, mix and match.
Are all three for the kidneys? All three for the kidneys here?
No, these are just points to press. These are release points, helps you balance forward, backward, side to side, and then center. But that's something we found out after, we go out, do 4 or 5 jobs a day and come home and just be beat, absolutely ready for collapse. And after we learned this technique, we could do 7, 8, 10 jobs a day and come home and go dancing without minding it. So it's a good technique. Anytime you feel tired or plugged up or not quite yourself, it's a simple technique to rebalance, get the energy flowing, and rebalance. So, any questions?
The chemical principle you just showed,
Right.
That doesn't paint a pretty picture for nuclear power plants and waste areas.
No, it doesn't.
Can something be done like about Hanford and nuclear stations?
Well,
you couldn't do it on their property, obviously, but you could go outside
You can
the
go out and
perimeter.
bar a ditch on the road.
Right. And that would keep the power from transmitting radioactive
Well, it would
frequencies?
keep that particular vibration off the grid, yeah. And there won't be too many lines in that area.
So once it came down and you blocked it and sent it back up, the next place it comes down, that's not going to be in it.
No, it'll be there.
So it will.
But so that's why that's one of the good reasons to do your house, just in case there's something upstream. Let's say your neighbor has, or even you have, household chemicals, paint thinner, roach killer, whatever out in the garage. If there's a zone going through it and running through your bed, you're picking up that pattern. So you just block the zone, it doesn't go through.
When you massage the tailbone at the end, what does that do?
That's kind of another release point. It releases that energy to flow out. Generally, you feel that tingling in your legs. My feet are hot right now.